pizza pies. Other man held for 15 years, now his kids are set for life.
Yo, family, what is good? Welcome back to another episode of Blockchain Banter at internet speed. Episode 21, I believe now. We're still going strong. We have two new special guests on the channel. Of course, joined by my co-hosts, cryptopumpz and Will Heavy Hash. But we now have another Kaspa content creator with us today, KatDaddyKrypto, and also Gonzo, a very prolific name, I would say, on the Twitter space for sure. And he's got some interesting stuff to show us today as well. So we're just going to be chewing the fat as per usual, getting into all of it. But how are both you, KatDaddy and Gonzo, doing today?
Very good. Appreciate you guys for having me.
Anytime.
Yeah, good to be here, guys.
I loved it. Thank you very much for taking your time out today. I know, Gonzo, you're very busy, so we won't dilly-dally too long, so you can just get yourself out of the way. What we will do first and foremost, though, for those who are watching, a short introduction behind the two of you, what it is that you kind of do, why you like Kaspa, why you're here, and what it is that you're hoping and expecting for the future. I guess I'm very, very, very short. So you want to take it away, KatDaddy, first, and then we'll go from Gonzo?
Yeah, so my background is, I as far as Kaspa goes, I've pretty much been in Kaspa since almost day one, and it was accidental because Ethereum, went to proof of stake, and I was mining Ethereum, so I was looking for another coin to mine, and literally, I chose Kaspa to spec mine. I didn't know anything about it at the time, but it was basically because I liked the logo and the color and the backwards K with the imperfect circle, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool logo, and literally that's how I came across Kaspa. I started spec mining it. Unfortunately, didn't put my whole entire farm to it. Otherwise, I would probably be on an island somewhere and maybe not even here doing YouTube. But as I started, researching it, the conviction and the, just the learning about it, I guess increased my conviction to a point where I started DCAing, and then, it was just, all, all over from there. And I was a Solana maxi, if you could call it that. Not really a maxi, but Solana was my first love in crypto. And then as soon as I found Kaspa, it switched to that. I still own Solana, but the vast majority of my portfolio now is in Kaspa. So other than that, though, outside of the crypto world, I'm a plumber. Boring, I know, but I just go and fix people's plumbing issues on a daily basis. So working part-time.
It's just lays bricks for a living or something like that. So
yeah,
trust me, we're all in similar boats. But yeah, I mean, honestly, it's actually an interesting story because we've had people, like Pavel, for example, who's co-founder of Vigor, who came from the Ethereum EVM side of things. So it's great to hear once more everyone's different background and how they came to discover Kaspa. Some just kind of found it pure through mining, through dumb luck. Some just liked the design and thought, yeah, it's cool, let's just get into it. But
yeah, a mixture of that and dumb luck is literally how I found it. And then, you start researching it and you're like, oh, this is actually pretty legit, I think, as time went on. When the price started rising the first time, when it got up to like fractions of a cent to 1 cent, I'm like, oh man, this is moving. Maybe this is something. And then that's when I really started looking into it. So
Danny.
Wicked. Awesome. Well, thank you for the introduction.
And Gonzo, how did you hear about Kaspa, or how did you get into it?
I just want to start by telling KatDaddy not the one to sell his plumbing credentials. You are doing hero's work. The amount of times I've had to call out a plumber and they've just come and fixed my life, it's been magic. So you're wear the cape, man. Wear the cape.
Usually people don't want to see me very often, but they like me, but they're like, we don't want to see you that often. So
no, we never want to see you.
It usually means they have an issue and they're they got to pay some money. So
we just appreciate
one job.
Yeah, it's one job. My Kaspa journey is definitely not as not as aged as I would like it to be, which is why I'm so thrilled by price action recently. I'm just not phased at all. This is my time to accumulate. I sort of entered the sphere early 2024, like real early, and really what brought me over was a complete jaded approach to how controlled all the other crypto assets are there. I came across, I was delving into a lot of different pies, and I didn't sleep well. I always felt like I needed to monitor. I always needed to check in on team updates and protocol changes and how tokens were unlocked or what new mechanism was being deployed. I mean, I don't. With Kaspa, I was looking for something that met what Bitcoin had delivered. I wanted decentralized, something that wasn't controlled. I wanted something that was essentially a community protocol. It was money first, and it was community that helped spread that message, and it was run and decentralized by the people that believed in it, and that's Bitcoin. But as we all know, I did a lot of research in Bitcoin and really just didn't want to go into it. I was looking for something else. I mean, the first thing that put me off was its significant market cap. Anyone that says you're still early to Bitcoin, I truly believe is not zooming out enough and thinking about the size of this asset. Yes, it's got room to grow, but a lot of that room has already sort of been taken up by early investors and significant whale holdings. And so you plug in those parameters into a search engine, and literally only one other crypto came up. And just like Cat Daddy says, I saw the logo, and I thought that was sexy. I liked the colors. I liked the name. I enjoyed discovering who was behind it and the journey and the story that they had in the broader space as well. And then the more you dig, you learn something, and it makes you want to learn something else. And my real involvement with coming out, I guess, because I was very much behind the scenes. I was someone that didn't want to get involved. I didn't have an X account. I was just buying. I was just watching. I was reading. But I just started seeing so much misinterpretations and falsehoods being spread. And I thought, well, no one's going to say anything about this. I may as well say it. Based on what I've researched, all the things you just said are wrong. So made an account, started posting, and here I am today, still correcting people that just have not opened a textbook.
Yeah. Well, that's how most of us heard about you on X. Yeah, correcting
Yeah,
people.
I mean, the energy at the beginning was very defensive, but also wasted, because I feel like half the time you're correcting. There's one thing to correct someone. There's another thing to go out and argue, and I can get behind a good argument. Once I get going, it's a little hard to pull away, but it's been better for my sanity to not take that as profoundly important. So it's trying to divert the energy to other ways now, and other ways to help educate people.
What's that
spread the word.
saying? The famous saying, you could take a camel to water, but you can't force it to drink. I feel like
Yeah.
that's the exact same argument for
horse,
a lot of, especially on crypto Twitter. Like you'll make a point, someone will try to dispute it, and it doesn't align up, and you lay out all the facts, and they just say, "Nah, I don't believe you." Okay, well.
Yeah, I can pretty much at this point now determine whether or not I'm dealing with someone that is truly engaged, even if their convictions prohibit them from wanting to learn more. But I can tell that they are not just, kind of dumb or kind of insular in their learning. They don't want someone else to dictate it. They want to set the precedents themselves. And when you meet those people, I know my responses get a bit more sarcastic and a bit more troll-like, and it helps me. But there are a fair amount of people that are willing to talk, even if they're not willing to have their minds changed. And I think those conversations are still important to have. But it really is, you got to think about how we feel as well. If someone's going to challenge our convictions, the difference is that Caspians need evidence and provability for those convictions to be truly tested. I find that a lot of the other convictions are held by default in the Bitcoin community or other communities, and that just comes from how old the protocol is and the narrative spin that has been happening by those early adopters and the Michael Saylors and all the other people. The trust don't verify has very much become something Caspians do more than Bitcoiners. So I think that was the other way around. Verify, don't trust.
Nice. And Gonzo, can we stick with you for a minute? Like, I know you're in work, bunking off, talking to us, but can you tell us about hash?
Well, hash is sort of that energy divergence that I'm talking about. It's about trying to direct my energy to something more meaningful that maybe has a broader impact. The biggest criticism I see inside the Kaspa community is often from people who are looking for their bags to be pumped, but at the same time, their criticism is well placed, and it is typically focused around Kaspa doesn't have marketing. It doesn't have a team that are putting it on bus shelters. It doesn't have a team that are putting advertisements around the Champions League final. It doesn't have a team or a marketing board that is trying to engage institutions. What we have is a decentralized open source protocol that people discover on their own. And we've seen some players get involved there. Kaspa Key doing fantastic work, I'm sure, although I would like to see some product development at some point, but I think Covenants will probably help that. But in terms of what they bring is they've got access to a lot of the institutional energy sector with Desert Industrial Initiative. You've got people like Hype Man, Wolfie, who have a lot of great contacts, but it's all volunteer time. He's not paid to do these things. He's doing it out of his own sheer passion and will and belief. And then you've got the core devs who are just putting out the infrastructure. They're putting out the rails. They're pushing the boundaries of what is people have considered feasible and possible. And in of itself, that is marketing, but it's only for those who are paying attention. So hash was very much me looking at this from a top level and thinking, what's missing here? We've already got a humongous community of passionate people. You look at the CMC ratings. How many days has it been on top? Like it's a ridiculous amount of days, and like that energy is just directed very passively and very easily on a day-to-day basis. You just log in, you hit a button, you log off. People have started doing it as part of their day-to-day routine and rhythm. And then of course you've got that energy that could be put to use in other ways. So the whole intention with this not project, I don't want to call it a project, it's more of an initiative, is to see how maybe it's more about saying to people, put your money where your mouth is. If you want marketing, if you want access and you want eyes on it, then go and make the difference. Go and help those people notice it and do what me and KatDaddy said, which is spot the logo, figure out what it means, start encouraging people to ask their own questions. But the only way that's going to happen is through visibility. So I remember when I first came across, when I first heard about Bitcoin, I didn't buy it, but I knew what it was. It was probably 2009? No, 2013. Yeah, 2011 to 2013. It was within that 2-year period. But I only knew about it because I saw it everywhere. I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand it. I just saw the B, I saw the orange, I saw the name, I saw stuff on lampposts, I saw stuff tacked up on notice boards. I saw it just all over the place. And then slowly over time, it just becomes part of that culture, and it becomes ingrained in what you take in every single day in your subconscious. And that is sorely missing with Kaspa, and it's missing with a lot of cryptos, but with a protocol like Kaspa that doesn't have the marketing teams, this is an opportunity for people to go out and do it themselves. But it's one thing for me to say, hey everyone, put a sticker on a lamppost, go and put a poster up at your local coffee shop. Why don't you, I don't know, go and stencil graffiti art under some underpasses and take some pictures? It's one thing for me to say that. It's another thing to say to people, well, if you do that, how about you can earn some Kaspa back? Incentivize it. Try to show people that you can do this and how easy it is. And if you do it, maybe you get a little back. So hash is really built around that concept of put the work in, submit the proof, and maybe you get a little bit of a payback for it. But in many ways, it's about creating habits. I mean, I'm hoping to launch an NFT collection in the next couple of weeks that creates that initial seed funding, and I will redistribute all of the funds that are allocated from that project into these rewards. And based on the math that I've done, I could generate a fairly significant pot, and I can run some pretty big things. I want to see how far I can push this. I want to know how much someone is willing to do for X amount of Kaspa. Because I don't know about you guys, but I see Kaspa and I don't value it in dollar terms. I don't look at it and think 1 Kas is 3 cents. I think 1 Kas is 1 Kas. And if you want to think about where this is going based on how we all feel, I see it as an at minimum $1 protocol, market price appreciation, whatever that is, $28.7 billion market cap. That seems very achievable for Kaspa. So I think, like a lot of people, they see 1,000 Kaspa, they see $1,000 one day. So there's a lot of opportunity to give away rewards to people that go out and don't just smash CMC every single day, but actually go and put a sticker on a lamppost, who go up and put a poster, who do some stencil chalk art at music festivals or at street festivals, who go and put Kaspa on a balloon and just float it up high. Or how far are people willing to really do this? Do they want to put a huge banner out and stick it on an overpass? You know, you're driving down the M5 or the M4 or something. I'm talking to the Brits in the room here. And you see Kaspa, steady Kaspa over the overpass. Maybe, just maybe, someone is bold enough to take a projector. They set it up in a bush with a portable power bank and they just abandon it and walk away. And the thing just like projects onto the side of a major landmark for 24 hours. They get a reward that covers those costs and then even some more. There's so many opportunities for guerrilla style marketing, and all it needs is a little incentive to really push it. So with the funds that I'm hoping to raise, it'll be running a lot of these types of community guerrilla marketing campaigns and missions. I've been talking with Odie, POW Odie. He's my fellow co-host on the Ogo Pogo, and we've he's a brilliant builder. He's really nailed the building with AI, and he's able to pump out some amazing stuff. And he's working at the moment on something for release post Tokata, and it's called Stag Hunt. And I don't want to talk too much about Stag Hunt, but it's essentially, I don't know if you've noticed the dumb shit that Pump Fun is doing again with its bounty program. I saw some foolish video the other day with a man with watermelon strapped to his face. And the things people will do for magic internet money is ridiculous. But we're hoping it doesn't devolve into that. The idea will be more taking the spirit of what Jonathan was talking about when he was expressing his thoughts at the Oxford presentation around Stag Hunt, and seeing this as being, well, maybe we can set bounties on this. We can say, this will pay out 10,000 Kaspa if you do this. That 10,000 Kaspa gets locked into a covenant contract. And upon submitting proof that you accomplished the feat, whether that's a video or a picture, and it is vetted and verified to ensure it isn't an actual AI developed video, because that would defeat the purpose, then those funds are then released to you. They're yours. Congratulations, you just made 10,000 Kaspa for completing a task. And we can go anywhere from 1,000 all the way up to 100,000 Kaspa prizes. It's very reasonable, very doable based on what I've got planned out. I just need to get the initial ball rolling, and we'll see how it goes. In a nutshell, that is it. I feel like this type of thing is best explored through questions and answers, though. So I will pause.
Awesome, wicked. I mean, I completely agree that when it comes to marketing, the same thing we've heard from Jonathan, from Johnny, from anybody, the biggest complaint in the community has definitely been surrounding marketing. It always been happening with marketing. There's no marketing, there's no exchange list, there's no adoption. And while there is a general agreement in that aspect, the same question is posed. There's no VCs, there's no centralized authority. The marketing is purely community driven. So I think the idea that you have with Hash and the hopeful vision that it could sprout and turn into would be a great, hopefully, launch pad, spring pad for community members to start actively marketing Kaspa out there. Yes, we have it online. Crypto Twitter is in its little bubble in that aspect, but getting out into the real world is the next major step. Like how you mentioned, Bitcoin doing it early on as well, just sticking it on lampposts and forums and whatnot.
Exactly. I mean, the Bitcoin community did it. The Kaspa community can do it. There's no reason why we can't. I mean, you're right to call out where the effort is directed right now onto CT and how much time people spend basically selling Kaspa to current Kaspa holders. The algorithm is saying to people, you already like Kaspa. Here's some more reasons why you should like Kaspa. It's not saying let's push this into the interests and to the suggested topics for people that have never come across this crypto before. It's not doing it. So I think sometimes you have to realize that exposure and growth needs to happen outside of the internet and in the lives of real people. So visibility. I'm visiting Vancouver in a couple of months, and I know that I'm going to be going there armed to the teeth. And I was just in the UK recently, and I didn't have anything with me then, but I spent some time in some big cities down there, and I wish I had some stuff with me because I would have done it there. I'm less likely to do it in my hometown. I have been doing it, but it's just a small population. There's not a lot of traffic. There's some tourism hotspots, and if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it there, because it's not about just doing this willy-nilly. You don't just want to go down to, I don't know, your local sports field and just slap it on a bleacher. You want to go to tourism hotspots or places where people spend a lot of time pausing and waiting, bus stops. I don't know, the best places, honestly, is probably the back doors of public restrooms. It's just anywhere where people stop. Yeah, where anyone stops for a moment and looks at something. But then it's about drawing the eye. It's about getting people to stop and think and to ask questions. And sometimes you need to be a bit bold. Maybe sometimes you need to be a little bit controversial. I mean, my first real understanding of Bitcoin was the Silk Road, and it was drug money, right? And the controversy really helped. It really helped sell the narrative and put it into the mainstream. Kaspa needs something controversial. Maybe with Hash, I'll get someone to run across the World Cup final with Kaspa spray painted on their butt cheeks. It really just, you need controversy. And you need exposure, and you need it to happen outside of the echo chamber. But it's, yeah, I mean, incentivizing and leveraging the power of this community is something that has been untapped so far, I believe. And I think that I want to change that. And that seems way better than fighting with lightning maxis.
Gonzo, you mentioned funding this with NFTs. So what are your plans for that, and then broader for funding it? And also, I was going to ask as well, how much of this do you think people will just do of their own accord? Because
well, that's what I'm hoping.
People are very excited to get out and spread this stuff anyway.
Well, to your last point, I would say if that's the case, then why is it not happening already? I'm seeing some people do it. Yeah. I don't know if you recall, there was the guy at Coachella, and he took so many stickers and he put them everywhere, all over the bins. He put them all over the public washrooms there, well, the blue porta parties. He put it in all the entry barriers. He slapped it on the sides of the stage. He covered a beach ball in Kaspa stickers and threw it into the crowd, and you could see it bouncing around. Just those things. I mean, that guy's doing it. Some other people are doing it. They're putting up their stickers. They're putting up their small, subtle ones. But this needs to happen at a much bigger scale. And I mean, part of what I want to do is to work with Seb and Castmaps. I've already got a community page set up there. I haven't launched any of the socials yet. I'm just waiting to get everything sorted out. I don't want to create spaces that I'm not actively present in because I'm working behind the scenes still. But I want to leverage that and to target where there are a lot of Caspians, and to say, well, there's 6 of you here. Why aren't you all teaming up and doing this thing in the same city and putting 7,000 stickers across New York City, for instance? But in terms of the funding, I don't have a Kaspa bag that is significant enough for me to dedicate portions of my bag to it. I'm still building. I'm still accumulating. I only came to this a couple of years ago. And so I'm thinking, well, the best way for me to generate funds, rather than just begging, saying, hey, everyone trust me, I'm a Muppet, I wanted to give something back. So the NFT creation is very much, it's for the people that like NFTs, but it's also, I'm hoping, for people that don't, because part of the participation protocol for this is going to be, if you want to earn Kaspa, you need to mint at least one. Then your funds, your 287 Kaspa, that's all it's going to cost you. What's that, $10 these days? Maybe it's even cheaper where you are in the UK. But it's, yeah, it's not much for one of those, and all of those funds will go into put in those weekly giveaways. I want to reward people every single week for putting the work in. I want to create content creation competitions. I would love to, like, the amount of, I'm going off here, but you talk about what the community is able to do, but all of the educational material you see is not made by a centralized entity. It's all made by the community. So again, thinking about the audience getting outside of Twitter and getting into the real world, that information on all those posters, some of those beautiful posters explaining what Tucata is, will confuse the living pants off of your average person on the street. You need to simplify that down. So I would love to create some competitions and do some giveaways that reward the people that create really easy to understand, translatable, accessible posters that invite someone to ask another follow-up question, at which point they scan the QR code. So running those, and then like I mentioned on my last post, I want to run some large-scale guerrilla marketing events, and that requires funding, because that would probably be getting like 3 or 4 people to establish a team, sort of like a hackathon, hence the hashathon, play on words. And when they've assembled their team, they come up with a mission. What's their target? What's their objective? How are they going to make this big and bold? And then they can submit their marketing attempt for, as part of the to be eligible to win a prize. Maybe those are the big ones. Those are the 100,000 Kaspa prizes. And it's maybe getting everyone to do it all at the same time on the same day. This day is going to happen all around the world. You got someone in Sydney, you got someone in I don't know, in Greece, you got someone in the UK, South America, North America, all on the same day doing one major Kaspa flash mob. I don't know if that means you spent an evening painting golf balls with Kaspa logos and dropping them all on a bridge, and that made the news, or if you decided to have a Bitcoin versus Kaspa pillow fight in the middle of Times Square. Well, whatever your goal is for visibility and attention, it's all about action, community-oriented ideas, spreading awareness, and that could happen organically. I'd love for that to happen organically, but I feel like that will be the end point. I'm hoping to instill habits, to create a culture of this, and to do that, I think a little incentive to kickstart it will help encourage people to participate, maybe get out of their comfort zone, maybe meet some other people, maybe be bold and try not to worry too much about what someone thinks about you putting a sticker on a poster, and then you do it and you realize how easy that was. And then you earned 1,000 Kaspa, and then you do it again. You don't earn 1,000 Kaspa again, but you just keep doing it because you see how easy it is. But that's sort of the point. And when the funding runs out for these NFTs, and I mean, based on the roadmap I put together for myself, weekly giveaways, monthly giveaways, bounties that I want to set up, competitions that I want to run, and the large scale hashathons, I could probably run this for at least 1 or 2 years. And with that, after 2 years, if the funding runs out and we made some noise, maybe the community's wanting to donate more. Maybe there's another thing that happens. I haven't really thought much further ahead than just doing some Robin Hooding for the next couple of years and seeing if people will actually do the proof of work and actually go out there and put their money where their mouth is. You want people to hear about Kaspa, go and fucking tell them. It's as simple as that. Yeah. So the incentive is really just the Kickstarter, but maybe it grows into something else. And if this doesn't amount to anything, but all we did was have some fun, that's worth it as well. And then at least the Kaspa that the NFT mint generates goes to the people that do care enough to put the work in, and you know it's going to good hands. So I feel like that's a pretty good spot as well.
Okay. Yeah, the QR codes have a bad name where I am at the moment. I don't know if the same thing is happening with you. You know, people, car park machines where you pay for your parking and they're sticking fake QR codes, and it brings them to a dodgy website and they put in their bank details. And so QR codes are great, but if you have the Kaspa.org on it as well, that'd be good.
Yeah, no, I think you need to be a bit. The QR code needs to be something someone's going to scan because the poster invited them to ask more questions, right? You don't want to give all the details away, but you want people to maybe say, I've got a couple questions. What is this? This didn't make sense. I'm intrigued enough, but this I need to ask more. So they know where the QR code's taken them. What you're talking about is stealth QR codes, and I think that there's definitely a guerrilla aspect to that could really work. Who is it that shared this with me? Someone, I can't remember what the name is. I'd love to give them credit. It might have even been one of the guys from Blockchain Banter on the Mondays. Oh, it was actually Lavendi, I think. But it would be someone put a free Wi-Fi QR code up and they stuck it in a McDonald's, but the QR code doesn't take you to free Wi-Fi; it takes you to Kaspa, and it's just those little moments. But I think, you know, you don't want to just have a QR code that takes you to Kaspa.org. It'll freak people out. You want a QR code that goes to a very specific website, and maybe someone's willing to build that, and the website is just a very simple. This is what Kaspa is. This is why you should continue looking. P.S. You don't need free Wi-Fi. You have data. It's just something funny. It needs to be, but that's the type of thing. That's bait. That's baiting someone in and then seeing if it hooks. And you can create a lot of, you know, bad blood in people's mouths, bad taste in people's mouths. Like, oh God, if this is what they wanted to go to, the community's probably a bunch of scammers. But at the same time, what you are also doing is creating that visibility. You're helping people hear the words, see the color, see the logo, and maybe when they get angry after they left McDonald's because they didn't get their free Wi-Fi, instead all they got was a Kaspa shill. But then they walk outside, and then a week later they're standing at the bus stop and they see a sticker there. Like, there it bloody is again. Where did this thing come from? And that's where it starts. It's the ripple effect, and it only happens through large scale action. But the good thing is that if you start doing it in your hometown and you're the only one doing it, it doesn't matter if no one else is there doing it with you. Those stickers stick around. Those posters stick around, and even if they get taken down and you put another one up, the same people will see it again.
Yeah, like I have stickers from the Berlin experience still, but like I suppose people could go on to any of them websites, you know, Temu or whatever, and they could probably make their own stickers, could they? Their own Kaspa stickers?
Well, I've spent a lot of time making some at the moment. I've got a lot of concepts. Some of them are very basic. Some of them are a bit more bold. Some of them are a bit more aggressive. Some of them it's a bit of this and that for everyone. And I'm going to set up a store on Sticker Mule, is where Chad from Rhubarb Media puts his Kaspa accepted Cure stickers. And once I've got it up there, I'll probably use some of the funds to just make a bunch of them and give them away to some of the people that have requested them, who have minted some of the NFTs, and saying, here's some, go to town, go and put some stickers up. But they will be available for people to purchase. But at the same time, if you have the means to make them yourself, I'll provide all the files for free as well. And then you can take them onto your computer. If you have a sticker making machine and you know how to do die cut, you can do that. There'll be some that aren't die cut that are a lot easier. You can probably take them to your retail shop and print them yourself. So I want to make it as easy and as accessible for people as possible. So there will be a store on Sticker Mule, posters probably as well. But most of what I want to do is to incite creativity as well. I want to see what people are able to come up with, because you can come up with some great ideas. Even like I don't want to. Part of my caution here is I'm doing this publicly and in the open, so I don't want to say go and spray paint Kaspa and Kaspa logos all over the world, because graffiti may be illegal where you are from. So the creative way around that is washable markers or chalk, and do things on sunny summer days where it's going to loiter, and you do it where there's high foot traffic. You write it on the floor of a bus shelter. You write it on the front of a stage at a music festival. You do it in these places and it all disappears. The harm is not that significant. But at the same time, people might want to creatively do something like that. And if that's the case, then fair enough. I'm not going to encourage it, but if you do it, you do it. And there's murals is another good way of doing these things. I'd love to use some of the funds if I can find a cheap mural artist in some big cities and just say, hey, go and paint this somewhere, because they got the space to do it. I don't know about you guys, but there's an old abandoned train line near where I live, and there's a lot of factories, and on the back of the factories there's constant art going up, and it's all just commissioned, and it's all spray paint, it's all graffiti art, and it's on a high traffic cycle route. Lots of people going up and down there all the time. You get a mural artist to put that up, it'll be up there for a month. And that's bold and big. So lots of options, lots of creativity that could be come about. And I'd love people to see what everyone's doing. And part of what Hash is to inspire, and to, if someone creatively does something, then maybe it inspires someone else to do it where they are, because they see how easy it was. They're all about stickers, but that's probably the easiest, most accessible way to kickstart.
Yeah.
Wicked. I very much like the idea of it. I won't keep you too much longer, because I know you are very much past your time.
No, I'm on a roll now. This is the problem. This is the problem when I get started.
I also do want to re-rope Cat Daddy back into the conversation again, but I do want to. I have seen some questions here which I think are valid ones, which is in regards to the success that NFTs have nowadays is not the same that was back in the day. So it may take, it is like NFTs is the entire premise of kind of the funding, then is whether it will be as successful as you hope or not is something that I'm sure you have taken into account, but it's just something to also consider as well. Because I
mean, it'll be what it is. It's if it's slow, it's slow. If it goes quickly, it goes quickly. The moment the first NFT mints is the moment I start giving shit away. So part of what I'm hoping is to demonstrate. I mean, proof of concept is an important element here as well. And I need to prove that what I am doing is real, but also, is it measurable? Is there an outcome? And that's really going to be contingent and dependent on the Kaspa community. But there's only a few people doing this right now, and I guarantee that they'll win all the Kaspa to start. If people start seeing that there's Kaspa being given away here, then there's a pretty strong chance it'll start growing and spreading. And the NFTs, I didn't want to just create something that was a boring, it just said hash on it. It was your membership card. I put a lot of time into the art and to the way that these look and the design. I feel like they need to look at least good. This is essentially an art collection that is going along with it. I tried to build and respect the ones that were created by the Kaspa.com team. I really liked that art style, and I liked that they embodied community members, the developers and the hackers within the Kaspa community, and all the people that are dedicated to code and to building. And I wanted to do something in the same vein. I wanted to celebrate the people that take leadership roles. That could be all of you guys, right? You're all putting yourself out there every single day and trying to promote it and putting your faces on the screen. But then there's also all the people that I want to inspire them to do the work behind the scenes, off the computer, the hidden heroes, so to speak, the ones putting all the stickers up. So that's sort of the intention of the collection. It's the exact same artist that put together the Yonatoshi collection. I had the approval and blessing from the Kaspa.com team to take and adapt those existing traits. So I do feel, obviously, NFTs are niche. It's not for everyone, but this is it's better than me just saying, give me some Kaspa so I can give it to other people. This is meant to be a fundraiser in many ways that then goes into community-oriented action. So we will see how it goes. It is what it is. I know that I spend a lot of time in the old Kaspa trenches on Telegram, spending a lot of time I was in the KRC communities quite deeply. I'm at heart a little bit of a degenerate, and I just can't help myself. And I know there's a lot of polarizing views on memes and whatnot, but for me, it's about communities. It's about the people you meet. It's about every bond and relationship you develop along the way. And I know from what I have seen, NFTs are pretty hot in the Kaspa community. There's a lot of interest in them, but I'm hoping this broadens it out a little bit, because it is in many ways, like I said, that entry ticket to participation, and it doesn't cost a lot to get started.
All right. Well, I love the idea, Gonzo. I really, really do. I can't wait to hear more. Hopefully, it does take off as you anticipate.
Well, I'm not in a rush to mint it out. I'm not going to shove this down people's throats. If people want to participate, you participate. That's it. There's no forced participation here. This is, if you want to do some work and earn a little bit of Kaspa along the way, go for it. But hopefully we do mint it, because I am very excited to do some really crazy, bold stuff. I would love to set some absolutely absurd bounties and see how far people are willing to go to earn some Kaspa.
Yeah. All right.
We shall see.
Yeah, we shall see indeed. Best of luck to that. Indeed, Gonzo.
Yep, I'm T minus probably a couple of weeks. I'm very much in the phase now, just finalizing how they all look. Once they get out, it will be good for me then to I'll be pivoting pretty heavily into just trying to get the action going and trying to get the momentum. So hopefully in the next week or two.
All right. Well, I'll keep on the lookout for that. To rope KatDaddy back in real quickly, we're gonna pick your brain and just ask you some, whatever stuff. But the first one actually comes from Lev. Very simple put. Will we ever see KatDaddyKrypto in London?
Yeah, I saw that comment. I'm definitely not going to rule it out. I've never even been over into Europe because I hate airplanes. That's the biggest reason. I would love to go vacation over there. And my heritage is Ireland. I'm Irish, and I've never been there.
Sure, give a little fist bump there.
Mostly Irish. There's some other stuff mixed in there, but so I would eventually, like in my mind, I would have already taken a trip over into that area 15 times, but it's getting me on an airplane that's the biggest issue. Is Wolfie's in London?
Yeah, so Wolfie's
Okay.
has got a shop that's in London. I know they mentioned plans to expand into South Africa as well. So that will be, that will be happening at some point. I'm sure
That'll
they'll
be
make
even more difficult for me to get to.
Yeah, well, the London part, yeah. I mean, Wolfie, the London's Wolfies, there are events happening frequently. So yeah, and there's meant to be another one happening. I think not
In the States somewhere. He said he talked to the community and see what they thought. Wasn't
Yeah,
it? So yeah.
yeah. There's meant to be another. Yeah, so I mean, if Wolfie's takes off in the way that, of course, they envision it, then Wolfie could be global as well, global kind of beer place. I know that they have got another event in London on the 25th, I believe, another poker event, which I'm hoping to go 3-1 against Lev. Oh, that victory, that poker win I got against Lev, oh, it was absolute cinema. I'm still not living it down. It was so funny. But yeah, we have to see you in Wolfie's, check it out with Viking Horn. I think that's like the what do you call it, the inauguration, is that the word? Inauguration for someone coming to Kaspa having a Viking beer at Wolfie's.
Oh yeah. I have to do that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, when you come down, 100%.
Yeah, but Cat Daddy, like you could go down to Florida, couldn't you? Fort Lauderdale and get a cruise ship, and I think it doesn't stop at Dublin because we don't get sun here, but. You could get off. I think it might. I don't know. You could get off in England and come over or something like that. Yeah, but I haven't been to Wolfie's yet either.
I don't think I've ever heard an Irishman suggest someone get off at England first.
The cruise ship skip here because it just rains too much.
Cat Daddy, I was going to ask you earlier. You mentioned that you kind of started off in Solana, like the Kaspa logo, and then sort of fell into it. I don't think that's necessarily fair because, like, to stick around this long, you must have seen something else. What was it about Kaspa that kind of piqued your interest and made you stay longer than just thinking it was a cool logo?
Yeah, so obviously the cool logo was just the initial interest, right? What made me stick around once I actually started deep diving into what Kaspa actually was it's a mixture of a few things, but it's the fact that it takes Bitcoin's principles almost to a T, right? And there's nothing else in the space that does that besides Bitcoin, obviously. And I figured, back then it was more for me. I wanted to find something that I had conviction in that was going to stick around, rather than just these pump and dump type things. And mainly because I'm a human being, and part of why I'm in crypto is to make money. But finding something that sticks around and that has all of the roots of what crypto is actually supposed to be, from the beginning. But on top of that, has better tech and is actually scalable, right? Because you can't do a whole lot on Bitcoin. Right now, all you can basically do is just hold it. I mean, you can send it back and forth, but you're going to be waiting a good hour for a transaction. It just doesn't work as money. And there's not really a way to make it work as money on the base layer because they have forfeited all of the forks back in the past, hence Ghost Protocol, that Jonathan at 2 different times tried to bring up in conferences. Therefore Kaspa was born because of that. And maybe we revisionist history say maybe that was a good thing they rejected it. But that and the fact that it has the grassroots and principles that Bitcoin had. But then also, if I ever, and I tell this to my audience too, if I ever start losing any conviction in Kaspa, my go-to, because it sits for a while and you got a lot of people talking bad about it, and even in my mind sometimes it starts to say, is this where I should be putting my money? Is this the protocol that is going to make it long term?
Mm.
I go back to Jonathan Sampolinski because he's been in the space for basically since almost the beginning of Bitcoin, working on security protocol.
Mhm.
And he's highly respected. He's got major connections in the space, and he was working on this project for roughly 10 years before he even, brought it to the public. Wanted to make sure that it was going to work, and everything was going to be what he wanted it to be. And that's what I go back to more than anything, is that Jonathan Sampolinski is not a fly by night, in and out, flash of a pan type of guy.
Mhm.
And I have all the confidence in the world that at least on their end, they're going to do everything possible to make it stick around long term, right?
Yeah.
Adoption is another thing, and we can talk about that. But as far as behind the scenes, the core devs and Jonathan, I just think the chances of them failing or giving up before this project is to the point where they want it to be is very, very slim.
Yeah.
And that's where my biggest conviction and my biggest confidence comes from. If if there was ever a point where you start to think and question yourself.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I think it was interesting that you mentioned the introducing the Ghost protocol to Bitcoin, because there's kind of two interesting things about that. One is on the Bitcoin side, which is that at the time there were lots of ideas on how Bitcoin could be scaled, and regardless of how valuable any of them were, how likely any of them were to actually be implemented, how far along in terms of their technical viability they were, sort of irrelevant. The fact that the Bitcoin core team just never really considered any of them. None of them were ever pursued. It was kind of like, no, we've got our thing and we're going to keep it this way, which kind of goes against the incentives you'd think that would be there, which is like, actually, no, we do want to scale this because that will bring more users, which will bring more fees and keep the network secure, and also protect Bitcoin against being replaced in the future, which is possibly what Kaspa is now going to do. Bitcoin could have insulated itself against Kaspa happening to it by just scaling or considering some other options. So I think that was one interesting thing you raised. The other thing as well on Jonathan, I completely agree. And I think one of the things that I particularly like about him is that even now he talks about how when Ghost was suggested to Bitcoin, he was saying, no, it wasn't ready. Like we found flaws in it. We decided it wasn't right anyway. Like and I wouldn't know technically enough to even criticize that, but the fact that he is so self-critical, such a perfectionist, like he will point out things he said wrong in the past, things he got wrong, and then correct them in the future. Like the fact that he's so humble about that, I think, is a great sign. And you compare it to, like, I don't know, I saw the founder of Sui the other day, because obviously Sui had 2 outages, which is pretty embarrassing for a
No,
decent.
it was 4. It was 4.
Was it
It was
4?
4 in 2 days.
So that's pretty embarrassing for a protocol that's meant to be decentralized. And I didn't know who the founder was, but I had a look, and he's very loud, and he's more outgoing and more brash. And I think that's not necessarily the properties you want in a leader. You want someone who does actually delegate and is humble and self-critical and so on. So I completely agree. And so for you, where do you see Kaspa going? Like you've got conviction, you've got Jonathan. Like where do you see it?
I mean, I don't know 100%, obviously, and none of us do,
Mhm.
if it's going to be around 20 years from now. Because when you look at technology, it advances pretty quick, right? And obviously, Kaspa's ahead of the curve, I would say pretty significantly at this point.
Yeah.
I just be honest with myself and everybody that I talk to. Like, we don't know 100% if it's going to be around. We think it's going to be around, right? But we can't convincingly say for 100% fact that it will be. But that's what investing is, right? You pick and choose what you think has the best chance of sticking around long term, and that's what you invest in. And that's why the vast majority of my portfolio is in Kaspa, because I think it will be around in 20 years. I think that there's a good chance, and by good, I don't know what percentage that means, but that Bitcoin ends up having issues at some point here, right? Because of the fee structure.
Mhm.
And because, and I'll give you an example of exactly that kind of paints a picture of exactly why this is going to be an issue. So Lightning Network, we all know, is being pushed right now, right? But in order to, when you're using the Lightning Network, obviously you can make payments a lot faster and you can send Bitcoin a lot faster. But once you're in that network, it's centralized, and you're not, the transactions are not being settled on the base layer. So the miners aren't getting paid. And at a certain point in time, that's going to be a big issue, I think, unless they just, last minute pay somebody and they figure something out, and that may as well, that might happen. But there's an app that I've been using for like 4 or 5 years now, maybe even longer. It's called Lolli, Loli or Lolli. And what it does is it allows you to buy things that you're going to buy anyways, but you're getting a percent back in Bitcoin. And so you click on these little, whether it be Amazon, whether it be, certain gas stations, whether it be Best Buy or whatever it might be, right? That's in your area. You're making a purchase, and each of these things has a different percentage that you can get back in Bitcoin, and then it adds it to your account. And so I've got a certain, amount of Bitcoin just from buying things that I'm going to buy anyways. I used to be able to transfer from wallet to wallet. So I would transfer that Bitcoin straight into my cold storage wallet. Well, recently I just reopened that app because I hadn't been in it in a while, and they don't allow you to do that anymore. I have to open a Lightning account. They will not allow me to transfer it unless I open a Lightning account and transfer it through Lightning. And so I would imagine that's not the only thing that's doing that at this point. That's just a small example. And so if everything is going that route, then there's going to be major issues at some point.
Yeah.
And I think that Kaspa is the only asset out there right now that has any chance of, falling into place if something happens to Bitcoin and people start jumping ship. They're going to look for the next best thing, and there's nothing else out there that's even close as far as the principles and the way it was set up, and just the grassroots aspect of it, what crypto was supposed to be. And I have a feeling that at some point, if something does occur with Bitcoin, Kaspa is going to be the ship that, at least a good percentage of people jump to. And you can already see that a little bit with some of the Bitcoin maxis on X. They're holding a bag just in case, right? It might be a small bag.
Da
Compared
Vinci
to their
Germany
other
is doing
portfolios, maybe it's big compared to us. I don't know, but and as far as price goes, like, I don't know what's going to happen. Developers to come in. This is a short term, obviously, too. To just come in and make cool stuff. And stuff that people are actually going to use. And I think once we get the not crescendo, the Takata hard fork, you're going to be able to build stuff on the base layer, which I think is huge. And my last thing here, I would love to see a Solana style wallet. Because it's just easy to use, right? It looks like you're in Web 2. And everything is done. What's it called? Help me out. The most popular Solana wallet.
The Phantom, no?
Phantom wallet, yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to see a Kaspa wallet that mirrors the Phantom wallet in the Solana atmosphere, because that's what I got into when it was just easiest for me. It was very easy, very clear, and somebody who hasn't been in crypto very long could use it.
I think that's
and I
currently
think
the
that
work
that's huge. What's that?
Okay.
Have you tried
I think-
Castle Wallet?
I was gonna say, I think that's currently the work being done with that's a Castle wallet right now.
I do have a Castle wallet, yes.
Yeah, I think they're currently
Probably the closest I've
working.
seen to that similarity is Castle so far.
Mm.
Currency are pretty good as well, but Castle have got all of the internal web apps
Okay.
that make
I haven't been
connecting
in
to
it in
browsers really quite nice. Like I said, I'm on Kaspa.com a lot, so it works very well. It reminds me a lot of Phantom or MetaMask.
Okay. I'll have to get back into it. I created a wallet when it first came out, and there wasn't really much you could do with it at that point. So I'll have to get back into it and play around and see what it's like.
I mean, yeah. I actually want to quickly pull something like you said earlier. You mentioned about, of course, the fee structure for Bitcoin and how it's falling off. What you said there is actually already being highlighted by names bigger than us. Marathon, for example, before they had that whole AI pivot they're kind of doing right now. Even Marathon's CEO Fred Thiel was talking about the shortfall that is Bitcoin's fee structure and the serious issue that it faces in regards to the fact that they understand that Bitcoin, they understand the whole premise of the value comes with transaction fees. End of the day, a Bitcoin can't do that, especially on the base layer. Lightning can give you that. So there are no transaction fees. So if you're not taking into account transaction fees, the only way that mining becomes effective and profitable is if Bitcoin. I think that I'll try and find the article. I saw it on CoinDesk, but it's basically saying that Bitcoin would have to 2x in value year on year for it to remain profitable. Every 4 years to remain profitable while mining. So that means Bitcoin would have to reach 250K, let's just say, by 2027, let's just say, and then come 2031, it has to be 500. Then come 2035, it has to be 1 million. And is that possible? Who knows? But that is a steep ask for a maturing market. And realistically speaking as well, with the only way that sort of capital comes in is through institutional adoption. And we're seeing it happen right now. They're still talking about Bitcoin, utilizing it as a strategic reserve, but they're not going to use Bitcoin for payments. They, unfortunately, right now, they're choosing all these proof of stakes that are looking all snazzle and dazzle and talking about being used for payments like your XRPs or your, I guess people still talking about Sui to an extent. Solana and Ether still very much spoken about. Hyperliquid has been in all the talks right now from institutions as a perps.kas marketplace, which, I mean, it has been doing very well. But when it comes down to the necessity that comes back, which is just decentralization, just and pure ownership, true ownership, that's when that pivot will come back, to me, in my belief, to Kaspa. And the proof of work element gives it a solid basis for increased security and all those things that help subsidize the network as well.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any chance at all that Bitcoin's going to be $1 million in what did you say, 2035?
Yeah, it would have been 2035. Yes, so it's 9 years from now.
I think there's zero chance of that personally. With diminishing returns. Just look at the chart, and maybe something happens where it way outperforms or something like that. But with diminishing returns and the way things have been going with crypto in general, and Bitcoin, as the curve levels out, it's not going to hit those massive price spikes for all that much longer, I don't think. But Kaspa's got the same issue too.
Yeah, of course.
So we can't hide that. I guess the good thing with that though is Kaspa scalable. So as long as adoption, trickles in, we should be okay.
And also Kaspa Core while it's not their decision, it's still a community consensus decision. They've indicated and quite evidently showcased their willingness to be flexible. There have been talks about fixing the fee structure. People like Shy, for example, said it's not an issue, and I would care to agree. There is definitely an issue, but it's not as big as an issue as people are making it out to be, because Kaspa is still in this, it's 5 years going on 5 years life cycle since 21. it's still growing, it's still building. While most projects have kind of reached this perceived final point and they're bringing out these new privacy functions for corporations and whatnot, Kaspa is still building the foundation that will push it further ahead and make it. But right now, I think Kaspa is quite comfortable, one of the strongest platform protocols in the crypto space. The thing it lacks is programmability, which comes through following post Kata. Once you get that and the ability to build native assets on the layer one, builders coming in, building stuff like Gonzo was talking about, I'm sure post Kata you'll see more ideas sort of like what Gonzo was talking about, or other sort of ideas that will offer their own unique gimmicks, if you want to put it that way, or unique benefits. They'll start building on Kaspa, and then you get that proof of concept, which is so very important to show that Kaspa can become this settlement layer, this fast, secure, scalable, decentralized settlement layer for AI agents, for payments, whatever it may be. But it just needs, my thing for Kaspa has always been, post Kata, we should get programmability. It won't be instant boom adoption. It's a maturity timeline. We need time, which there is a cutoff point, if you want to put it that way. You could argue 2030, everything at that point will be adopted. Kaspa's got until then, you could argue. But I think if you take it where we're at right now, market-wise, Kaspa's still holding on. 3 cents-wise, it's holding strong levels. It's still got adoption. It's still got building. And, you know, institutions are still trying to make that push in because we're still waiting on regulation. We're still waiting on regulation. We're still waiting on this adoption. I think that's... And you've got KRI as well also pushing their flagship projects, which I know some people are hit and miss with KRI because they require proof. And I get that. I think there has been proof showcased from Rory, but people want, I think, more evidence because they see not lackluster proof, I guess, and also price not correlating to what should be happening. But I think post Kata things should be quite
and
a reflection point.
I think the base layer and creating things on base layer is huge because I know what I'm doing and I don't like going to layer 2s. You know what I mean? I think it's annoying when you have to swap things over a bridge and get a wrapped version of stuff. Like, I just want to use my Kaspa on the base layer. Like a lot of most other projects, proof of stake, because you can kind of just do that right out of the gate. Right? It's just easier to use. And for somebody who's new into crypto, the learning curve is, you know, absolutely harder when you have to, you know, send things over bridges and, you know, they're just not going to happen. You're not going to get the user base that you want when that has to happen. You could argue AI agents may or may not mind, you know, a layer 2, but I would imagine even in that scenario, you know, it's less friction if you can just use the base layer, right? Even if you're an agent and you know how to use and go back and forth through a bridge. And then also the KII that you mentioned is literally I talk about them all the time because I absolutely love. That's the most intriguing thing, in my opinion, in the near future about Kaspa more than anything else. Even more so, well, you could argue even for me more so than this hard fork. Even though I know how important this hard fork is. And the KII, I think, is waiting for this hard fork so that they can, you know, launch things on the base layer. But I am extremely intrigued by mostly Warp Core, but then everything else that they're doing as well, because I want to see how many transactions that they're going to start facilitating on the base layer on a daily basis, because it's, you know, 30 biggest energy companies as well as all the banks that they deal with. And, you know, I saw your guys' last interview with Rory, and he said that everything's going great and people like it because it works.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you can, if on their end, right, their end that they've been making their transactions with, nothing changes on their end. It looks the exact same. So they're just going to continue business as usual. But yet the transactions finalize instantly on a blockchain or a block DAG, I guess you could say, rather than, you know, the minute or the middleman that it has to go through in order to close, and I don't even know what the time length is on a regular transaction for them as of right now. But I have to imagine, and plus they can do a hell of a lot more transactions at one time, right? If they want to. And so it's just it seems like it's inevitable that if it works and they don't have to change anything on their end and it just looks the same, like why wouldn't they use it? It would make no sense not to.
Yeah,
So
I think things like Warp Core, they're those initiatives where there's no disadvantage to using it and all there is just obvious benefits. They're the ones which will grow the fastest, I think. So like Warp Core is a massive one. I think the beauty of Warp Core is that it's unique to Kaspa. But even something like stable coins, that's like another obvious one where why wouldn't you just use the cheapest, most secure, fastest chain? It's not even a case of having to market Kaspa. It's like, oh, it can now do that and it's way easier, cheaper, blah, blah, blah. So
well, that's what the AI agents are going to end up using when they can
Same.
choose their own chains, right? Stable coins or whatever the heck else they're doing or set up to do on chain. You would think that at some point they're going to find Kaspa and they're going to be like, this is the most efficient, frictionless, cheapest, most scalable, where I can do what I need to do without any headache and just go for it, right?
Yeah, I think it's interesting as well what you were saying about the base layer. Another thing that is an issue with layer 2 is just the security element. So like there's the convenience part, which is that if the base layer is not convenient, then you have to use the layer 2s and they're also not convenient, which is Bitcoin's problem. But also just it introduces trust. And like what are we doing here? It's meant to be decentralized, it's meant to be trustless. And now you're introducing a centralized point where something could fail. So
yeah.
I have a community question if we want to delve into that. I already know my answer for it, understandably, but coming in here from Peter here, if it wants to let me load it up, my mouse is double clicking. It says, how much Kaspa?
You have to shout this.
Oh, do I?
Yeah, because it's in all caps, so you have to shout.
Oh, okay. It's too late. It's already 10. I don't want to wake my neighbors up. How much Kaspa do we need to? Sorry, how much Kaspa does need to be bought to make the price rise? Holder number 1 already has 5% price explosion needed. What do we think about this? Do we really need Binance and Coinbase? So I guess the question just being is the question that I think we were going to ask you anyways, Kat, was what do we think is needed for Kaspa to escape the bubble? What do we need for the price to start rising? Because Wallet 1 has a lot of Kaspa. They're still stacking more. We don't know who Wallet 1 is. Is it what we need the Binance and Coinbase is? And before I take your point from that, my response to that is it'll be a factor of things. I don't think just Binance and Coinbase is enough. I think that could help for initial price rising, but you've got to remember in the space we're going into, we're still very much in a retail-dominated market. I'm pretty sure I saw a report from, it might have been the World Economic Forum. It was one of the big institutions, Morgan Stanley, who stated that right now crypto trading is 80% of crypto trading is made up of retail, 20% therefore being institutional. But we know all the money comes from institutions. So while Binance and Coinbase are the big exchanges, they control majority of the volume and the trading activity, and being on that exchange would be a big thing. It's still, for the most part, retail. I know Coinbase is expanding more so institutional-wise, but it's still retail. What's going to significantly increase the value and the price is enterprise adoption, stuff like what I believe what KRI is doing. That's what's going to help it. It needs maturity time. It needs time still.
My take on markets and price action is much more simple because and this may not be agreed upon by everybody, but I think that there is a small percentage of people that we don't even know about, that we're not privy to, that are behind the curtains, and they literally make markets go when they want to, and they drop them when they want to. I think it's that simple. For a project to stick around, though, like you were saying, it needs to have some sort of substance, obviously. You can't just, you can't just have a sustained project without sustained usage and all that kind of stuff. But when the market decides to run again, and I am at 100% belief that this is how it works, that when the big boys decide that markets are going to run again, they're going to run again, and Kaspa is going to run with it. How high it goes, I have no idea. If we have like a legitimate altcoin season again after Bitcoin pushes up this next cycle, then the sky's the limit. You see the market caps for these cryptos in a parabolic phase of an altcoin cycle. You can't make sense out of it. And most of these chains have literally nothing going on them, but the market cap just goes absolutely insane. And I would imagine it's VCs and people have money in these projects, so they want to gain some sort of financial benefit from them. But I think it's that simple, and I could be wrong, but I think there's some guys behind a curtain somewhere that we don't even know about. You've got big people that you hear about, like Bill Gates and all those kind of guys, the presidents of the United States or whatever country you want to talk about. Those are the people that you see, right? But I think that there's behind the curtain guys that actually even control those guys as puppets, and those are the guys that run these markets. And maybe that's just a tinfoil hat on my side, but I honestly think that they set up, like, everything's planned. I think that the war scenario right now, I wouldn't be surprised if it's planned on both sides and it's all manipulated to keep the markets at bay. And maybe not just the markets. I'm sure there's other stuff going on, but I don't know. I feel like that everything that we live through is just a movie that we're being a part of and watching, and that it's all choreographed behind the scenes. And so I don't think we need to worry necessarily. If you want to get back to Kaspa's, price appreciation, I don't think we need to worry about it, because when the market decides to run again, Kaspa is going to run. It hasn't had a true bull cycle yet, right? Because we didn't have an altcoin season last cycle, and its initial run from 0 to 3 cents, wherever it's at now, right? It went up a little bit more than that, but that was just almost positioning itself into where it should be in the market, right? Because it started from 0. It didn't launch at $100 billion market cap like some of these other projects do. It launched at 0, and so it had to find its place in the crypto market, and it settled now at 3 cents. So now it's on an even playing field with everything else when it comes to where it is market cap wise. In my opinion, that's its base now, and next time we decide that the market decides to run up, then it's going to start from 3 cents or wherever it is at the time, rather than 0 this time, and it's going to go wherever the market thinks it should go at that point in time. When it comes to the exchanges, I know wallet number one's buying a ton, but I'm pretty sure they're buying it over the counter, so it's not affecting exchanges. Even though they're buying it technically from an exchange, they're buying probably from a reserve somewhere that's not affecting the actual markets. So you don't see price appreciation in the short term. But what is happening behind the scenes is you're technically getting a supply crunch, because more of the supply is being bought and held, right? And there's a lot of people in big money situations that have a lot more money than us that buy straight from miners as well. They have like contracts that they can buy straight from the miner, so it comes right out into the open and gets sold straight to some of these big entities. And I don't know exactly what's going to happen, how high Kaspa's price is going to go. But what I do know is the fact that it started from 0, it's positioned itself and found what I think is pretty much a base at this point. I do think it could go a little lower if Bitcoin drops in October and follows the 4-year cycle. Could, because it didn't drop this last time. I think that Kaspa is positioned to have its legitimate first real bull cycle in the cycle that we're currently in. And usually coins in their first bull cycle perform very well, regardless, because they're new shiny toys. And I don't see that many brand new projects actually popping up yet when it comes to, like, competition or whatever it is. I think Canton is the only real, but that's VC backed and launched at a big market cap, already number like 16 on Coin Market Cap. That's more of an issue for the XRP army because they're calling it the banking coin, the new banking coin. So I'd be scared
You
if I was the
mentioned
XRP army with that one.
you mentioned Wallet One there. We usually ask the people just for a fun question. Do you ever think about who Wallet One is?
Yeah, but
Or
I
what it
literally
means?
have no idea. Like, I go back and forth. Sometimes I think it's just an exchange. Sometimes I think it's somebody funding exchanges. And then sometimes my mind goes really crazy, and I'm like, what if Michael Saylor is buying Kaspa? You know what I mean?
Well,
Because
Michael Saylor
he
posted
sold.
he posted the blue apple with the Bitcoin logo on it on the same day that Marathon announced they were mining Casper. So that's a
Exactly.
little
So
conspiracy.
let me tell you my theory. So obviously there could be a number of reasons why he did that, but I think the two most logical reasons are what you just said, that it was kind of an insight into his mind of, Bitcoin with that color means maybe he is thinking about Caspa. Maybe it's a positive scenario if Marathon thinks it's a good coin to mine. I'm sure he knows what it is at this point. The other scenario is, what if it was the forbidden apple from Adam and Eve, right? And that you shouldn't take a bite out of that apple, the Caspa apple, because it's not Bitcoin, was the other thing that I thought about. And at the time, that felt more realistic because he was in such a box, in his head. I don't know that he could have gotten out of it. But since then, he's been a lot more open to proof of work altcoins. He's been a lot more open to altcoins in general.
Yeah.
In some of his
Even-
interviews. And
even
so
just
now I'm thinking maybe it was positive.
Yeah, even just in his overall narrative, like a few years ago, you wouldn't have caught him saying anything other than the word Bitcoin, basically.
Yeah.
And now he uses the word, he says like crypto reactor and whatever the fuck that means, who knows? But yeah, he'll say things like that. He'll talk about, like selling Bitcoin. Even like he's taking bites of the forbidden fruit in every way he can. He's delving outside Bitcoin. He's selling Bitcoin. I guess if you were to put a real tinfoil hat on, he's testing every single forbidden thing that he shouldn't do about Bitcoin, because the next forbidden thing is to drop Bitcoin altogether and go into Casper. Who knows? I was going to mention as well, you were talking about institutions and things being planned. And I have a conspiracy-minded head as well, and I'm well aware that most of it is completely unfounded. But something interesting that you might like is cycle theory. Bitcoin is basically the asset with like the strongest 4-year cycle, but the cycles appear everywhere, and it is so strange once you understand it. Like, so you have these 4-year cycles, and they're basically nested with smaller ones in between. You might know some of this already, with weekly cycles that are longer and then daily cycles. And for example, Bitcoin's daily cycle is 60 days long, and at day 45 in the last cycle, that was this most recent top. And if you know cycle theory, you know
Interesting.
that we're expecting a low. And what happened at the top? Saylor sold Bitcoin. As someone who follows cycle theory, they don't say, oh my God, why is Bitcoin crashing? Why did Saylor sell? They say, we knew it was going to crash. The market just needed an excuse to crash. And that was Saylor selling. Just to go back as well, sorry, I'm waffling quite a lot, but to go back to the thing you were saying about institutions, I think institutions are clever and they look at lows rather than highs. Retail look at how hard a market cap runs, and a market cap can run with very low liquidity, right? You don't need loads of money hitting a low liquidity asset to make the market cap seem big. But institutions will look at the lows and they will see that when Kaspa, even this bull run, but next bull run especially, we might run hard and then we won't retrace as hard as other altcoins have. Right, Bitcoin, historically, it's run 20, 30x and only pulled back sort of 60%, which is unbelievable considering how much it put in before. Other altcoins, 99%, even below their previous 4-year lows. So I think institutions are looking for an asset which doesn't retrace as much into the lows, because that shows that the support that was built in the previous bull run is then held the next bull run, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that Kaspa has a good chance of doing something like that, right? Where the lows in bear markets, if you want to call it that,
Yeah.
Get less and less as time goes on. And part of that, I think, is the community. Like the word cult like is probably a negative word, but in a crypto community, those are the communities and those are the projects that usually do the best. Look at Cardano, for instance, which at one point maybe still does. I don't know. I don't follow them that much, but had a cult like community, right? They had like 70% of the supply staked in
Wow.
staking rewards, right? There was nothing you could do on that chain at all, except for buy and stake or buy and transfer back and forth. And it went like 3 cycles or 2 cycles where you could not do absolutely anything, but the community was like cult like, and there was a promise of smart contracts coming in the future, right? And that was like 2 cycles away, and it still held, and it still made massive all-time highs in both of its first 2 cycles, and you couldn't literally do anything on it. And so that I always go back to that because it reminds me that a community that is that passionate that holds on for dear life, basically hodls, always gets rewarded. And the Kaspa community, what was the last the last metric on when the last time somebody, or the amount of Kaspa that's been held in wallets and not sold? It's extremely high compared to most
Keeps going
projects.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. So that alone makes me think like let's just play out a scenario that Kaspa doesn't make it in the future, right? This cycle, I'm pretty sure it's going to make it. It's going to put in new all-time highs. I don't know how high it's going to go. But if you're just looking in the current cycle that we're in right now, I think Kaspa is going to perform very well, and will reassess after that, right? If the team continues to build, if the community stays strong, if the bunch of other metrics you can follow, if the TVL starts to grow and smart contracts are on the layer 1, like all of that you monitor, and if things continue to grow, then it's going to do exceptionally well the next cycle too.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what you're talking about with the cults, because I see the cult as like that's the initial speculative sort of fire that's created. With
Bitcoin had it too.
Exactly. I was just going to say Bitcoin had it pre sort of
Still
20.
kind of does, actually.
Still does. I mean, it does still exist. Even the biggest cult members like Sailor are starting to move away from it a little bit, but it was especially strong like pre 2016. And I guess after the cult dies, that's when you see whether the tech will stay and whether it's still worth anything. And Bitcoin obviously has continued to run even without necessarily the same evangelizing that it had back in the day. Something like Cardano has massively failed that test. We've made new lows. It's performing terribly.
Massively failed.
The cult dies and the tech dies because there's no real use for it. It hasn't proved itself. With Kaspa, I think hopefully, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think it, but I think it will use that cult phase, the speculative phase, to prove itself. So, and even like more broadly, I think speculation is an interesting one as like a market force, because you think, what is the use of speculation? Well, speculation is to give a technology or a company a chance to prove itself. I think for Kaspa, that cult-like phase will materialize into something bigger. We're already seeing it with KOI, and as soon as you get some institutions that join the cult, it's more likely to stay. So
Yeah, and we've got to be realistic too, because like we're talking about short term right now. Just like the Bitcoin maxis are saying nothing else will take its place, technology advances like very fast, right? So we could be looking 5, 10 years from now, and there is something that, is similar, that can scale better, that, we don't know. Maybe Jonathan and Sutton and the core, dev team continue to build out Kaspa, which is what we're hoping for, so that it can keep up with the current technology, right?
Yeah.
But we can't fall into the same mindset as the Bitcoin maxis right now that we so often make fun of, thinking that there's never going to be any better tech than Kaspa, because there might be someday. As of right now, there's nothing, right? But we don't want to get locked into that, toxic. Maybe it would be like toxic maxi Kaspa. 10 years from now, if there's clearly something else out there that might, and Kaspa's made it, right? But there's something else out there that, maybe you want to look at. I don't mean to be negative at all, obviously, because
No,
I'm a
of course.
huge Kaspa, investor, and, I believe in it 100%. But I just want to caution everybody not to, we talk about Bitcoin maxis being toxic. We don't want to fall into that same category at some point. So we've got to be open-minded. And this cycle, there's no way that's going to happen. There's nothing that's going to come about, in my opinion, that's going to make, Kaspa irrelevant, especially with all the upgrades that are coming this year and next year. And so I think short term, this cycle, Kaspa's primed for, in my opinion, a massive bull run. I could be wrong, and people could be yelling at me 4 years from now
No
if it
financial
doesn't make
advice.
new all-time highs. But I have a very solid gut feeling that Kaspa is going to do very well this cycle, and then we reassess, in my opinion, next cycle. Because if Jonathan walks away, Michael decides to stop, doing any advances, then maybe we try and search for the next Kaspa, right? Which would be the next Bitcoin as well. Like, I don't know. I'm just speculating out, 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Yeah,
So,
I think don't be afraid to be critical. I mean, like,
no.
it's such a breath of fresh air to have a community where you actually can critique the project, and like you don't just get hit with a bunch of maxis telling you to shut up and that you're fudding. Like, the word FUD, I think, is it's just saying something is FUD is basically absolving yourself of having to actually have a defense for your argument. If someone says, I think Bitcoin might struggle with its security budget, it's FUD. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's like an actual criticism that like you should probably be able to answer.
It's literally real math.
Yeah, like it's just maths, right? Exactly. And I think it's the same thing with Kaspa. I mean, like I happily talk about the fact the fee market is a problem. And like you say, something else coming along. I think the benefit that Kaspa has is that as a community, we actually do have half an eye on becoming irrelevant. Like we know that is a risk. Bitcoiners can't see it yet for some reason. But with Kaspa, there's a constant advancement because we're aware that we need to make sure that we stay ahead of the curve. And I think as long as, if we get 5 years down the line and we can, hardware gets cheaper and we can push, say, block sizes or block rate without it sacrificing decentralization, I think Kaspa will be well placed to do that. And that will keep it, as long as you have the network effects, right, and you're better than the competition, I think we should be okay. But yeah, what I wanted to ask you, I just find myself asking everyone in Kaspa this, but what do you see as the biggest risks to Kaspa, and how do you think it will be overcome?
Honestly, the biggest risk, in my opinion, is just adoption. It needs to be adopted. I think and that's why I'm so intrigued by the KII, because I think on the back end, they're going to create, at least if everything they say they're going to do actually comes to fruition, they're going to take care of a lot of adoption on the back end, and help pay the miners out, right? Because we're going to need, and like you said, they might fix and tweak some things to make things, fit and work and easier, scenario for the miners to get paid, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. If adoption doesn't gain some traction by the time it needs to. I don't know what's going to happen there, but in order for a crypto project to last long term, adoption is key. It's 100% key, and it might be the only key, to be honest with you, because Bitcoin has a ton of flaws, but it's adopted, right? And it's been great for a lot of years now, and it's still being adopted today. That doesn't mean it's going to be adopted forever, but in order for Kaspa to stick around, it has to be adopted, in my opinion. And it has to, the community has to grow. People have to be using it. And you may even get to a point where you're going to want institutions, you're going to want Michael Saylors. I would argue he might not be good for Bitcoin in the long term, but
I agree.
you might need something like that in order to, and that just comes with, if it grows to the, a certain point, then there are going to be celebrities. There are going to be, maybe not Michael Saylor, but people of his stature.
Yeah.
Maybe an Elon Musk, maybe, who knows, right? But people that big people that people know about, that can influence the price, because it's going to cause other people to buy it, that type of stuff. If it does get to a certain point of growth, then that probably inevitably is going to happen at some point. But I think adoption is key for making it stick around multiple cycles. And adoption can look it can look different, right? There's multiple ways a project can be adopted. It can be adopted on the back end, it can be adopted on the front end, it can be adopted by AI agents, which is technically the back end. As long as the transaction counts continue to climb, especially once we get the being able to do stuff on the base layer, I think Kaspa is going to be just fine, personally.
And I agree with you that adoption is the biggest thing. I think the beauty of Kaspa is that it solves the demand side. So like with Bitcoin, it solved the supply side, right? It's got a fixed supply, amazing. But like, how are you going to fuel that? The demand is what actually causes the price increase. And the fixed supply helps to a point, right? That's the store of value component. I think we'll get people just buying and holding Kaspa, like you say. Celebrities and institutions will help with that. But the other side is the medium of exchange part. The fact that Kaspa is so fast and can be used on the base layer gives it a complete other vector to grow in, rather than just being a store of value. So yeah, I agree with you. You said you think that say like a celebrity type figure is might be what Kaspa needs. Do you think that Kaspa will struggle without that, or do you think that it will still be okay regardless?
I think it'll be okay regardless, and I don't think it needs a celebrity. I just think that if it grows and gets the attention, that inevitably would probably happen over time if it sticks around and it's considered to be scalable, programmable Bitcoin, then I think it's inevitable that at some point you're going to get bigger figures that people know, like public figures that disclose that they bought Kaspa at some point in time. I don't know that we need it, because Bitcoin did very well before everybody, but before Michael Saylor, before all of these big entities, and Tesla bought it, and Elon personally bought it, and the celebrity commercials on the Super Bowl, all that kind of stuff. It did very well before that. But maybe if it like ever needed to grow to multi-trillion dollar market caps, maybe it does need that. I don't know at that point in time. But I think if it's successful, it can go multiple cycles without needing something like that, in my opinion. As long as the adoption and like the fundamental, so the adoption is great enough to where the miners are happy and the security stays intact, right? As long as all three are like that whole circular aspect of everybody being happy, and the price continues to make all new all-time highs every proposed 4-year cycle, then I think we'll be just fine.
There's something else there with the fees on the Takata hard fork. Like I've done videos on the transaction rules, you know, the UTXO rules, and you have ZK proofs that's coming out in Takata. But there's also with fees. There's going to be programmable fees on Takata as well. Like if you're launching a token or you have some project or whatever, you'll be able to adjust the fees up or down. So it'll be extra revenue for the miners. I didn't know about that part of it, so that's really good as well.
I wonder
But
why somebody would want to adjust them upward though, so they have to pay more in a fee. Unless they were like diehards like us, that are like, oh, I want to help out the miners.
Yeah, it could
I
be
know
to be able to say to your users that you're supporting the miners, maybe.
yeah, because even
That
though
would be the
Kaspa's
only thing I
fast,
could think of.
yeah, the fees are really, really cheap. Even if they upped them a little bit, it would still be really cheap, you know, but it'd be better for the miners.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Kat, how do you like views on YouTube? Did you notice there a while ago views went down, like really tanked?
Drastically. And
Yeah,
they've spiked a
yeah.
little bit recently.
Yeah, they were like, you know,
I don't
usually
know
get
what
over
that
1,000
means,
views
but
or yeah. Well, interest was gone, I think, in Kaspa for a while, or really lowered.
it was really, really tough
I mean, it's also driven
to
by the
make
fact
videos.
that it was also driven by the fact that we are starting to, we kind of are in this kind of cyclical bearish trend where most people who are like want to get into crypto, most people are getting for the first time and they want to make money. You know, it's the whole idea, the whole purpose behind it making money. So they come in when the markets are hot, when, you know, logically speaking, the time to make money is going in when everything's down, so you can ride that wave back up. But
Yeah,
you know,
in full disclosure, that's why I entered the crypto market originally.
oh no, everyone. I mean, I got in my first cycle in kind of the initial. I knew about crypto probably back in like 2016, 2017, but or even I'm putting between 2018, 2019, and I got enough of the like confidence to be like, okay, I actually want to start getting in during this kind of like 2020, 2021 run up. That's when I started getting in. I made, you know, my gains. I made some losses, as you would do. I learned a lot of lessons from that, and then I knew that the whole bearish cycle we were in from post 21 to 23, effectively for Kaspa's case, but 24 for most of crypto, it's like that was the time to build up. And the same thing that's going to happen right now. You'll probably see the bottom form, I'd hope, sometime this year, but I ain't got a crystal ball. But
Yeah.
did
you round trip your bags the first cycle like 99% of people do?
No, the first cycle I full ported and just took out. And then I was holding stables and waited. Currently, right now, I am half of my bags in stables, half of it is still in Kaspa. That's currently how I'm positioned right now, because I think Kaspa's one that is worth me holding. I am down on my holding. It's not a problem to me, but I do think it's one that I think can come back. I do agree with your consensus. Of course, none of this is what we're saying is financial advice, but the belief that Kaspa can make this, you know, historic run based on everything coming out, the adoption of AI, and institutional adoption, the fact that Kaspa is now a much more developed protocol, and there are many legacy platforms and chains. We've seen a lot of FUD coming out regarding Charles Hoxton and Cardano recently. We're seeing a lot of attack coming near Zcash's way after the exploit. Polkadot's in the line of fire. Hyperliquid and Near, not as much so, but because of KOLs like Arthur Hayes, also are now seeing a lot of you know, negative volatility and headwinds. All of that's happening right now. Kaspa's been quietly building the entire time. I think that when that cycle does find that bottom and pivot and returns back up, and institutions who are still doing that research still, they're looking to, okay, here are the chains we're looking at. Zcash security exploit, not a fan of that. Sui 4 times down in 48 hours, not a fan of that neither. Oh, let's look at Kaspa, because there is institutional eyes looking at it. Grayscale originally had it on asset under consideration, then they removed it, but they also now follow Jonathan on Twitter. You got that. You have the fact that Marathon diversified from Bitcoin for the first time ever in history to looking to Kaspa. And while they significantly reduced their allocation and holding of Kaspa, they're still mining it to this day. I've checked. Not as much, but they stopped mining it for, I think, about a 6-month period, and they started at the beginning of this year. And it's been slowing down a lot now because the market is not in the period for it, but they're still mining Kaspa. You've got Zodiac Kaspa, you've got ETPs of Kaspa, you have KRI being one of the kind of bigger names in that aspect as well. You've got enterprise Kaspa. And if KRI's project, their warp core, is as successful as we all hope it can be, then the adoption comes through, and then that rally comes through with it as well. But everyone have their time in a cycle, of course. And a lot of people got into watching. People want to find out information, they want to learn. YouTube is one of the easiest platforms to do that, because you get a video telling you a source of information, kind of in a structured format, the work that we all do here. We were going to the bear cycle. Everyone's like, oh, most people are like, oh, crypto's a scam, get out of crypto, blah blah blah. And they're gone. They'll end up coming back probably near the end of the year. Although saying that, I think the beginning of the year is always terrible for YouTube. I think every single new year that starts, I find my revenue and viewership's always tanking. I know with my Kaspa content, I used to comfortably get 3-4K, and now push 1K. It happens. You've got to keep, unfortunately, and we know this as well, we've got to keep consistent, because while the rest of the KOLs and content creators who left already, pivoting elsewhere or just leaving and taking their bags, when the run comes up again, they'll make content again, but you'll see a lot of people who will realize that what they're saying is very much out of touch with what's actually happening. Those who've been here the entire time, who know it, they're the ones that will actually get the viewership.
Yeah, and the views and the subscribers, everything goes sky high during the.
Oh yeah, if Kaspa goes on that run like he did back in 2023, like I remember CG was making comfy like 15K views per video when he had like 20,000 subs, because Kaspa was big and he was the biggest content creator on Kaspa. Even I'm pretty sure I had a 10K video at one point during that run up.
Yeah, so, it's basically just like the cycle of price, right? When price goes up, your views and your subscribers go up, and when price is down, especially for a couple of years now, Kaspa hasn't really moved all that much, and it's hard. And I would express to people who, well, first of all, this is not the time you should be selling unless you completely, are not convicted in the project anymore. That's fine. You're welcome to that opinion. But I've been in crypto so long now that even look at Zcash last cycle. It was pronounced dead. It flatlined basically on the chart, and then it just gets resurrected for what I would consider one of the better altcoin performers, if not the best, this last cycle when altcoins didn't really perform. So Kaspa is going to, I can almost say this, well, I don't want to say this with 100% certainty, because I'll get myself in trouble if nothing happens.
Not financial advice.
Not financial advice, yeah. Definitely not financial advice. But this is the way I look at it. I've been in crypto long enough to see a project sit at, between an 8 cent and a 3 cent price range for 2 years, and then out of nowhere just explode. Sometimes for no reason at all. And maybe there's a reason behind the scenes that we just don't know about. But that happens on a very regular basis in this space. And even if you were planning on selling, I would wait for that moment, right? Where we get a 3 or 4x out of nowhere, and then sell out of your bag, rather than lose it all now at a lower price, which you're probably losing money on. Not financial advice. Because I guarantee that there is going to be, I don't know how long it's going to take. It might be next year. I would say my guess would be sometime next year that we're going to see quite a large pump in Kaspa out of nowhere, and everybody's going to get all excited again, and it may come back down again before we move into the following year, but we're going to see something, I think, at some point next year.
I sure hope so.
Because that's just what happens. It's what happens in the market. I've seen multiple cycles now, and that's just what happens. In 2019, altcoins go on a run. A lot of them do. Sometime in the post bear market year, 2019 and 2023, there was a lot of altcoins that did very well in those years. Kaspa being one of them, last bear market. Mm-hmm. And so I think that there's, if you're holding on to altcoins and you're planning on selling a bag, wait until next year sometime. I think that we're going to have it's not going to be like a parabolic crazy run, but it's going to be some X's that you're finally going to get back, and that would be the time to get out of your bag. Not necessarily Kaspa, but anything else you're holding as well. So
What's the saying? It's when the last bear flips bullish, that's when the low's in. Or when the last, no, the other way around. When the last bull flips bearish,
yeah,
that's when the low is in. Because
yeah,
if there's no one else buying, or sorry, there's no one else selling, and all you have is buying left, just from people like us who are just so autistic that we're just completely into it and just constantly buying. That's when the run suddenly starts, because you just suddenly run out of sell pressure. Everyone who is going to sell has sold, and then it's just like not.
and everybody that was patient
Yeah, exactly.
and accumulating during that phase are the ones that get rewarded. So, you know, you can only say that so many times and people get tired of hearing it. And those are probably the people that aren't patient. But, you know, that literally is how markets work. If you're patient long enough, you're going to get rewarded at some point. So that's, I mean, any sort of advice.
Fart coin, basically.
Well, yeah, let me put it this way. Not everything is going to come back. Not everything's going to come back.
Yeah.
But I think too, like this last cycle, we didn't really have an altcoin run, but we had, you know, we had like meme coins and pump.fun type stuff. That's not good for the space long term. It can be part of the space, but it can't be like the main, the main stage of this industry, or the industry as a whole is going to die. And so I think what's going to happen this next cycle, or technically the current cycle that we're in, we're just in the down part of it right now before we start going back up. I think that this next cycle is going to be, we're still going to have all the meme coin stuff, but I think there's going to be a bigger emphasis on real tech, because I think there's a lot of people that realize and understand that if that's not an emphasis, and that builders and devs are not getting rewarded for what they're doing, they're just going to leave. And I think that's what happened last cycle. You know, any of the good projects that were actually doing real shit and good stuff, they weren't getting rewarded. And so a lot of them left to go to AI, I think, because AI had a boom. And I think some of those guys are going to come back. I think kind of like it was the previous cycle before that, where there was like a DeFi summer and like real tech was like popular and the sexy thing. I think that that's going to come back this next cycle. And I think it's going to come raging back because everything's been suppressed for so long. Technically 2 cycles, right? Everything's been suppressed for way longer than it's been suppressed.
Yeah, you had
in crypto history. And so I have a feeling, and it's just a feeling, it's not financial advice, that this next bull cycle is going to be, mimicking the 2021 altcoin runs, if not bigger, in my opinion. And I'll go to my grave saying that, and if I'm wrong, I apologize. I'll put my tail between my legs and crawl away. But if I'm convicted in something to a certain point, I'm gonna be honest and tell you guys. So
I think we'll pay enough with our losses. That'll be our apology for all of us.
Yeah, exactly.
We're wrong. So
yeah, I'm gonna be suffering along with everybody else. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm doing this for financial gain or anything. I just think, I try and look out into the future and kind of see narratives and see, and the fact that we've been suppressed for so long in altcoins leads me to believe that this next cycle is going to be big. And I think if you look at back in, what was it, 2017, 2018? No, 2018 was a bear market. The same setup is basically happening that it did in the 2017, and the same presidents in the United States too.
Yeah.
Like the end of his reign in that era was 2020. I think 2020, right? Was his last.
Yes, it would have been 2020, I believe.
The beginning of 2021 was the new.
That was Biden.
Yeah. So I mean, even the late 2020 was pretty massive. So it makes me think that we're going to see something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's very possible. I think it's possible. We just have to remain patient, remain trusting of the devs who are building that on Kaspa, and the third-party devs who come in to build as well, and the adoption that will hopefully follow, which will thus increase demand while supply is dwindling, and that simple, logic correlates to the price pump. You just need to hold on, basically. I think Kaspa will survive. I think this last week also been quite a good proof of concept again to Kaspa's strength, when Bitcoin went from $74,000 down to 60, and Kaspa actually went down a little bit on the first few days and actually started rallying against Bitcoin, which is just for me another indication that 3 cents Kaspa is a very pivotal and strong level of support. Doesn't mean it's going to hold it. It could very well lose that, and I'm almost somewhat banking it. It will probably lose it, but for me, if Kaspa can hold that when Bitcoin's losing 12K, if Bitcoin goes down to 38K, or some people, 40K, people are saying 40K Bitcoin on the cards, Kaspa comes down to maybe 1.5 cents. Let's just throw numbers out there. Of course, once more, not financial advice, but the premise being is if Bitcoin can lose 74 to 60K and Kaspa actually doesn't lose anything, and if Bitcoin loses 60K to 40K, if there are losses in Kaspa, it's not something that I think would kill it. Not when building is still going on and people are still looking into the project and people are jumping ship from Bitcoin into Kaspa.
Yeah, for me, what that signaled for me, Kaspa kind of went into a bear market, in my opinion, before everything else, because it rallied in the bear market, right? And it had been sitting pretty dormant for longer than some of these others, like Sui ran after it, Solana kept running up, some other altcoins ran, Zcash ran late. But Kaspa was just going down during that whole entire period. And what this last drop in Bitcoin made me think about is that Kaspa had already given up that part of its gains earlier on, right?
Yeah.
So Bitcoin dropped and Kaspa stayed put at 3 cents and just repositioned where it should be according to Bitcoin in this current cycle that we're in, right?
Yep.
And so I don't know if Bitcoin does drop in October, maybe that's where Kaspa finds its actual bottom. But if it followed Bitcoin this last drop, we'd probably be down in the 1 cent range right now. And then this next drop, if we get one in October, would have taken us way below the 1 cent mark. Whereas now we're Bitcoin's down and we're still at 3 cents. And that makes me think that the bottom, if we do go down in October, is not as bad as it would have been if we got both of these drops that Bitcoin drop.
Yeah, that's
but I think it all stems from the fact that Kaspa started its bear market earlier than the rest of the market.
Yeah, I think that's something I've been thinking about in regards to cycle theory, is that so the 4-year cycle, you measure it low to low. So like for Bitcoin, the 4-year lows are very consistent. It's actually the same for gold, and the S&P is pretty consistent as well. But yeah, like one of the things I was considering for Kaspa is that the start of the 4-year cycle is basically when Kaspa launched, when it was at 0. And that was about 10 to 12 months before Bitcoin's ultimate low in 23, before it started its bull run. And Kaspa had already put in significant gains before then. So it's very possible that Kaspa is nearing its 4-year cycle low now, almost a year before Bitcoin finds its cycle low, just because it's shifted that far over. Yeah, and like you were saying there about the altcoins that have they put in a high early or just sort of popped and then failed. Again, in cycle theory, that's known as translation. So you've got low here, 4 years later, you've got a low. Where does the top fit? Where does it sit? If it's shifted to the left of the middle, that's left translated, and that's bearish because it tells you buy pressure ran out, and then we just had basically selling for years and years. Whereas with Kaspa, we had the launch and we had 2.5 years until we found the all-time high. So we're actually to the right of the midpoint of the 4-year cycle, assuming that the low forms soon. And that tells us that we just had sustained buy pressure for like 3 years straight on a new project. So yeah, I think it's interesting looking at the translation element, because it tells you a lot about the fundamentals of the actual asset you're looking at. If it's got a left translated 4-year cycle and then it just fails and goes down, it's like, okay, well, there was no support there.
Yeah, and we don't have enough data points even on Kaspa yet, to even we're speculating at this point. I think, as we get on, 3, 4, 5, even 10 years down the line, we'll have a much better idea of, what it's actually going to do in its, 4-year, window.
Mhm.
Because it hasn't even been, I mean, it's barely been around for 4 years. So,
Yeah.
or is it 5 years?
Yeah, 4 years.
5.
4 years. 5?
Just
4?
over, is it?
2021.
2021, yeah, 5 years then.
October.
Yeah, I think it was late 2021 when, actually it was technically when Bitcoin was making all-time highs, because I think Bitcoin topped in November of 2021 and Kaspa launched in October.
Yeah. Sorry, I think 4.5, isn't it? 4.5 years, maybe.
4.5, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see how it plays out, but I don't see any red flags, in my opinion, short term this cycle at all.
Yeah, I agree. Which is rare for crypto, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me as an investor too, like I'm obviously I dove deep into Kaspa because I believe in it, but I'm also you've got to be ruthless when you're an investor. You've always got to be making sure you can't just hold something and never look into it and never follow its metrics and never and just blindly marry your bags, because there's a lot of people that have gotten destroyed in time doing that. And you can argue, we'll look back at Cardano right now. It's making lower lows right now than it did in the depths of last bear market.
Yeah.
If there's a red flag in any market, that is the red flag. And I've even, not messaged, but commented on a few people because I've been seeing Cardano stuff come up because of the issues that it's having right now. And I'm like, the biggest red flag, in my opinion, in any asset is if you're following a 4-year cycle and you're making lower lows right now in this bear market than you bottomed at last bear market in 2022, jump ship now.
Amen.
Because I mean, you might get some bounces off a low or something, but I would be willing to bet my life savings that thing's never going back to $3. And I could be wrong, but it just seems like a project that's slowly dying. And the lower lows from bear market to bear market, back up that story, that theory. So
yeah, it tells you that the lowest amount of support is still not higher than last time.
Correct.
Like with Bitcoin, every low is higher than the last low, which tells you that enough people
any project that's made it multiple cycles has had higher lows from bear market to bear market, right?
Mhm.
And Cardano did that for a while, but when it stops doing that, you've got to ask yourself, you can't. That's the scenario. Like, there's a lot of Cardano maxis. They're like, oh no, it's fine, but they're blinded by what they're actually seeing. So that's what I don't want to be. If Kaspa ever got to a point where I have to question it from a chart perspective, and Charles Hoskinson himself is basically given up, it seems like. So like that's the red flag in and of itself.
Mhm.
Like that type of sentiment behind a project, if Kaspa ever got to that point, then I would publicly say I'm jumping out. You know what I mean? I'm not marrying anything if metrics and sentiment and charts and everything tell me otherwise.
Yeah.
Right? No matter what it is. In an investing world, you have to be like that. So otherwise, you're just going to ride this thing into a grave, potentially at some point, or any asset for that matter, and lose your whole life savings. So
Absolutely.
Well, family, that was some discussion. KatDaddy, you've got you do be doing it for a while, but you've got a very great streamer voice. So keep up the good work, brother.
A very what?
Streamer voice.
Oh.
You talk very well to the camera, which some people struggle with that part. I know I know I have my own show of speech impediments and whatnot, and it took me ages to get to the stage where I'm at, where I can present as I do. So
it didn't start out that way. You should have seen some of the first recorded videos I did. My now fiance, girlfriend at the time, was like, Yeah, don't put that out there. That is horrible. What are you doing?
Yeah, it took me a while. That's also partly why I was faceless for a long time, because I needed to build up the confidence.
It's getting comfortable is what it is, with the light in your face and knowing that people are listening to you is what it is.
I just pretend I'm talking to myself. It makes it easy.
Yeah, pretend you're talking to yourself.
Yeah, it actually makes it easier. I'm not speaking to currently 50 people tuned in. It's just 53, as you consider us three as well, just talking. But yeah.
Do you still doing your show on Friday night?
Yeah.
The live stream every Friday, yeah?
Every live stream on Friday at 5 p.m.
It's not 5 p.m. my time. It's like 2 in the morning.
Well, I know. That's why I said Pacific time.
You need to bring it back. You need to bring it back.
You tune in some nights, though.
I do. I'm lying in bed and I can't sleep. Yeah. Your show helps me sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only reason.
I appreciate it. You know what's funny is I have multiple people tune in that absolutely hate Kaspa, but they're there every single week.
I get it as well.
Talking crap to me and the group.
I get it.
And I'm like, why are you guys even here? But I'm like, hey, I appreciate you being here. But it's just like, why is Kaspa a dedicated stream like what you choose to tune into? I don't get it. But
what's the name of the guy that's on the stream every week?
Infamous.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah.
Oh, he used to be.
He's actually fairly nice.
I know that name because I'm not mistaken. Infamous used to be part of my streams, and he's not here anymore.
I think he changed it to not Infamous now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had Infamous in my streams, and eventually I just stopped giving him the time of day because he was always fun. I was like, I don't need to.
Basically all I do now is say hi to him and welcome him in, and then. I
do the same thing.
He floods the comment section with negativity, but
yeah, I think I did. The same thing. And then eventually, when there was a stage where it was getting very busy, so some of my more, polite, I guess, convicted community members said they wouldn't mind taking the role of being a mod. I was like, yeah, sure, I have some trusted mods there. And when that happened, they're just like, remove the spam. So and it helps because sometimes I actually would try to conversate in my chat, and if I'm just seeing just complete rubbish regarding Sui. Infamous was if the Infamous I'm thinking of, he was so big on Sui, which
well that's the funny part is because I still invest in Sui and Solana, and he's big fans of it, and so I'm like, hey, we agree on some things.
Yeah, I invested in Sui. I got it at 1.8.
This isn't a hate scenario, and the only reason I invest in Sui still is because it didn't have its correct bull run last cycle, and I've seen the outages issues with Solana not affected at all, and so it's just an investment to make money cycle to cycle. It's not a long-term hold, but I have a feeling that Sui is going to rebound just fine for like investing purposes. Because they got big backers and stuff, and they want to run that price up. So I'll end up selling out of it completely at some point. But yeah, it's funny that he wasn't there last Friday, which is interesting because Bitcoin had just dumped to 59K, and Kaspa was up 12%, and he was a no-show.
Well, that's why it's not a no-show.
Yeah.
He literally every time he joined my stream every time he joined my stream it was when Kaspa's dumping, and he'd bring up the generic. Kaspa's down this much in the past 58 weeks. This month I'm like, yeah, okay, it's down 80% from all-time highs. Have a look at your AVAXs and your ONDUs, which are down similar percentage. The price comparison is the for me the lowest.
You can cherry pick.
Yeah.
You can cherry pick those price stuff depending on what window you choose. And, there's so many variations of, well, this was doing this and this and this and this. And it's like, yeah, but you're cherry picking a window over here and then a different window for here. And so I hate all that kind of stuff. But
same, loathe it. Absolutely loathe it. But that's also.
Oh, and by the way, I have a feeling that we're going to wrap up here soon. But just so the community knows, I am in the process of purchasing, and this isn't like anything large scale by any means, but some KS, some ASIC miners, some KS, probably Ultras,
KS0
that I'm going
Ult
to
Pro.
set up in wall displays, hopefully. And I'm going to hopefully run. This is only to support the network because you don't really make that much Kaspa on them. Maybe I'll solo mine them. And, I mean, if Kaspa's price goes way up, then, it's money in the bank. But I had this. I got rid of all my GPU miners because they're not functional to run in the electricity costs that I have to run them in. But this was my first original KSO or KS0, and it
That's
stopped
sick.
It stopped working. So this is literally like first batch of these things from Ice River, and I just put. I know it's hard to see with the green screen, but I just put this from Proof of Prince, I think is his name, on X, and I just put some double-sided tape on the back and put that HODL sign on it as like a display piece because it's a paperweight now more than anything.
That'd be worth money in the future.
Yeah, I doubt it. It's just a piece of metal at this point. But it's cool. I'm going to hopefully display it as the central piece to all the other working miners around it. So I'm not going to spend a ton of money on them, but I thought since I do what I do, that and the one miner that ASIC miner that I had decided to die on me, I might as well support the network a little bit. So help decentralize it a little bit.
That's it. Well, I've 3 of them running behind me.
I'll show everybody the display when I finally hopefully get it up. But I'm working on getting some used ones for some cheaper prices. So
I have 3 of them running behind me to get about 7 casts a day. But on the day,
on all 3 put together.
Yeah.
Okay.
But on the day the KRC20 tokens launched, I probably got about 1,000 casts in a day or something mental like that. So
you know how much I was mining. You know how much I was mining per day on this little guy that I just showed you when it first came out?
Go on.
5,000 casts a day consistently. And it didn't last very long though, because then the like KS3s or the KS whatevers came out and like took a huge chunk of that mining revenue. But for a short period of time, it might have even been upwards of like 10K a day in cash a day. It was a lot comparative to what we're getting now. So
that's crazy.
Hold on to most of that.
Huh?
Did you hold on to most of that cash?
I haven't sold any cash.
Wow.
I haven't sold any of it. My bag is just growing at this point, and I'm DCAing. And I've got some limit orders set at some pretty low prices because I know how the crypto market works.
Yep.
And even if it's as simple as a flash crash that lasts an hour or less, even if I'm sleeping, those orders will get bought up. So that what was it, last year, October, that flash crash where Kaspa went down, I think, to a cent.
To a cent, yeah.
I bought it. I was lucky to catch it at 2.3 cents and bought some at 2.3 cents. And, that could easily happen again.
Definitely. I mean, I was on a call with a friend of mine talking about Kaspa, unrelated to the crash. And we were just like, oh, I wonder what the price is doing. We were just having a look at it. And then it started spilling. And when it hit a cent, we both tried to buy it on Kraken, and it just wouldn't let it go through because they'd clearly like turned off orders for a bit because something crazy was happening.
That's the problem with exchanges, because Coinbase has the same issue. Anytime the market rallies or dumps, when you want to sell or you want to buy, there's always sorry, there's an outage, and nobody gets the buys that they want.
Yeah.
And so, well, we don't need to go into why you shouldn't have your money on exchanges, but I bought mine through Tangem Wallet, actually.
Okay.
During that crash, and it worked just fine.
Interesting. So, okay.
Decentralized exchange, obviously. Lot less issues when it comes to like when I see the price start tanking like that, I get so excited because I know it's going to be short term and I can get these excellent buying opportunities, especially when the whole market's going down. If Kaspa was tanking by itself, I might be a little worried, but Bitcoin's last October, everything took a spill.
Everything just spilled in one go, yeah.
And when that's happening, then I go for it as much as I can in that moment. So most people get scared. I get extremely excited.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat there. honestly
Yeah, I got
speaking.
excited and then I got disappointed that I couldn't buy.
Like, yeah, you can't buy, then it goes to disappointment, I guess. So
Mm.
But we got in the comments, Cat Daddy. There's a guy, Octopus, on here. He's a taxi driver in Dublin. He says he will pick you up and drive you wherever you want to go for 1 Kas. He accepts Kaspa.
okay.
We had to comment. I saw that earlier.
Well, I
Yeah.
will definitely reach out if there's a chance at some point I head out to Ireland because I really would like to go there. I just have to get over the mental block of getting on an airplane for that long. And I've done it before, not quite that long, but like I've been to Hawaii and I've been to, the bottom of Mexico. But roughly those are like 5 or 6 hour flights, and to Ireland's a little bit longer than that for me because I'm on the west coast of the United States. If I was on the East Coast, it would probably be a little different, but maybe I drive to Florida and then fly out. I don't know.
Do it for Kaspa.
Do it for Kaspa.
Yeah. And we I have a spare ensuite bedroom. We accept Kaspa as well.
Okay. One per day.
One for you, sure. Yeah. One each. Just don't bring the cats.
You can't not match the taxi driver.
Oh, you're scamming him, surely.
Yeah. Then you just look like you're hoarding. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for tuning in and participating, Cat Daddy. It was a pleasure talking with you. It's currently 11:15. I've not even had my dinner yet, so I need to eat. But yeah, family, that was episode 21 of Blockchain Banter at Internet Speed. My co-hosts Will and Jer, as per usual, thank you very much. Carrying the boats this stream for sure, and Cat Daddy and Gonzo, who's of course left by now, but Cat Daddy, thank you very much for tuning in as well and just chewing the fat and just giving us some fresh insight into what's taking place and how we perceive the markets and ultimately why our conviction in capital remains as strong as it is. So I know a question that Joe always asks. I'm going to do the honors. Will you come back? Should we ask on the channel?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah, I will come back.
Great, fantastic stuff. That's all we need to know. We got your details.
Yeah. Before I appreciate you guys for having me, and I'm before we go, I have to say this: remember to pack your damn bags before it's too late. Okay.
Yeah.
Very important.
Good message.
No shilling your YouTube channel on air channel.
It's his name. It's literally his name.
Yeah, the name went off the screen now. Oh, there
it is. There you go. But yeah, that being said, family, if you enjoyed this week's Blockchain Banter show, the best Blockchain Banter show on any social media platform, then you know what to do. Leave a like, share with your friends, subscribe for more. That being said, family, have a great day, good evening, and good night. Thank you all for